And welcome, Jackson, again.
Nice.
Two of us have a long history. We know each other for many years. And thank you for getting up early. It must be really early for you, I believe.
Yeah, it's I was up at 3 a.m. And it's, I guess, what, 4:30 right now, 5:30. I'm in Quebec, so I'm enjoying my COVID lockdown here for another few weeks.
Okay, so let's get started. And
Sure.
So you brought up this big title, I would say. So it's time for an identity revolution, and so revolution always is a big word.
Yes.
Why do you go for that big word then?
Well, I mean, you kind of said this in your own introduction that you've been working in this business for a long time, and I think the thing I've seen over history is a number of great vendors come and go, but a number of great vendors building out identity products or IGA products or lifecycle management products, and continue to build them and build them and build them, so that there's a fairly big infrastructure around them. And while folks are doing this, like if I think back to that diagram of all the things that you have to build around an IGA platform, the environment is changing around customers. When I first started at Zoomit, there was no such thing as the cloud, or it was very different. The cloud was email going from one person to another. As time went on, and as time goes on in the market, things change in many different ways, and IGA vendors are forced to rebuild and rethink a lot of the things that they've been working on, and a lot of things that they've built. And you've got, like I said, this huge architectural debt that you've built up, and you get these islands that folks build. And I think it's all been good. There's been a lot of movement forward in the industry, but at the same point in time, like I said, it's like, why isn't this like riding a bicycle? Why can't you move from one identity vendor to another identity vendor and basically be able to reuse those skills that you learned when you first rode your bike? I really think that if we can build on a platform where we don't have to have all of the architectural debt around things like, all these cool new things like AI and ML that I was starting to build in my last job, and let us concentrate on all the cool stuff around SOD and access certifications and reviews, that we can actually be more revolutionary about what we're doing and not just evolve little by little, not have to build a chatbot experience when it's already there on the platform. So I really just think that you've seen all this rip and replace over the years because the market changes and the product doesn't keep up with it. My idea of revolution is, let's build on a platform where there's, in this particular case, there's over 3,000 people working on it behind the scenes. I want to ride their work and concentrate on the identity part. And I think if we can do that successfully, we can basically be the start of a revolution.
Okay, I think that's an interesting point, and you also touched on this during your keynote. And when I listened to your keynote, I remembered some of the questions I think we had in very early release of our leadership conference, and also used or asked way before. For instance, it was to provisioning vendors: are you able to leverage an external workflow? So if your organization goes for a separate external workflow system, are you able to leverage that? Because obviously, there might be specifics in IGA. On the other hand, you might already have such a platform. But back in these years, it was not the platform of that level we find with ServiceNow and other players in the market, but it was really a little bit different. But even then, I think this was something which was raised, or I remember one, and was that when you look at all these data integration capabilities, what makes this different from metadata management solutions at the end of the day? So I think there always have been some technical technologies out there which really were redundant to what we find in virtually every IGA solution as a sort of a custom development. And I think that is, from that perspective, I think what you're saying fits quite well into some of the things I've been asking vendors for years. So I'm with you. And I think the other thing is, maybe we touched this a little. I remember some conceptual discussion I had with a while ago, and which also is reflected on some of the standard advisory slides we are using at Kuppinger, which was around segregating data and identity and logic. And when I take one of your closing slides, you had this data layer in between.
Yes.
And I would say that exactly is reflecting this, even while you could argue that the data layer, again, is in some way proprietary in the login because it's at the ServiceNow platform, but you push this idea. So I would say we're pretty much on the same page, but I think when we, for instance, look at this, okay, there's this one data layer which then is on a certain platform. It brings us to a second aspect, which is there must be some negative aspects to your approach. So which one do you see there? So, or where do you see the risks? Where do you see the strengths and opportunities?
Right. Well, it's you would have to really not be paying attention if you didn't understand that we as a company are making a bet on ServiceNow. So if you think that that's a risk, or a company thinks that's a risk, then clearly that's a risk that probably has to be mitigated. When I flip that around from an opportunity perspective, it's probably a lot easier to make a bet and take a risk on ServiceNow, for example, than it would be on any of the vendors that I've worked with in the past. I mean, potentially excluding Microsoft, obviously, who has the breadth and the staying power of a ServiceNow, and vice versa. But we've made that decision to be on ServiceNow. In the future, we may think about another platform. But our target today is customers that have ServiceNow. So that's probably a concern for someone who doesn't have ServiceNow. But like I said, the thing I really liked about and which drew me to ServiceNow and to Clear Skye is the amazing capabilities of ServiceNow, the number of customers that have it, and where they sit in the marketplace as a leader in this field. Yeah, but I do agree with the potential risk.
Jackson, may it not be that you also have in some way a risk as a vendor? Relying on workflow, on data management, and AI, analytics, etc., capabilities provided in that case by ServiceNow, that ServiceNow at some point might take a direction which is fairly different from the one you'd like them to take. So that some of the capabilities you'd like to build on are just either retired or missing, or that they come up with large conceptual changes which in other way affect what you're doing. Isn't that also a risk for you?
Well, I think we could say it's a risk, but I mean, we've mitigated that risk in a couple of ways. I mean, you can never say there's zero risk, but we're really lucky that in the funding round before I joined the company, ServiceNow invested in Clear Skye. For us, that's a huge advantage because we have, special treatment, and TBD exactly what special treatment means, but we have, quarterly business reviews with their product management team. We have business executive sponsorship. So we have, very tight and deep integration with ServiceNow. The other thing is that that's not just a concern of a small vendor like Clear Skye. It's the concern of every customer who makes a bet on ServiceNow. And I just feel that the risk is mitigated by the fact that there are, 10,000 enterprise customers out there that in addition to us, obviously, that are making these bets on those kind of workflows and AI and ML and a lot of those other things. So I think we've mitigated that risk as best as we possibly can. I think a lot of the things that ServiceNow has built into their product, like backwards compatibility from release to release. Our most recent release right now is going through compatibility checking with ServiceNow for the Paris release. A lot of this work that we do with them mitigates that risk.
Okay, but you mentioned more in a by sentence that you might consider supporting other platforms in the future as well. So is this something where you're actively looking at saying, okay, there's ServiceNow, there's whatever Salesforce as a platform, there are a couple of other players which come with certain types of platforms. So is this something you have in mind?
Well, it's something we have in mind. And I'll be 100%, honest with you. It's something that we're looking at. We don't actively have people working on other platforms at this point in time. It's more, if we wanted to do something on Salesforce, does Salesforce have the ecosystem? Does Salesforce have the capabilities that we would need? For example, like you saw that slide where I showed the different silos. Can I accomplish everything I need on a particular platform? ServiceNow, obviously we've made that choice. Something like Salesforce, something like potentially a Workday or another product may very well have that same platform. So I think over the next year as we grow and we understand our customers better, we're going to look at that and think about that as a future topic. But for the time being, right now, we're just concentrating on ServiceNow. But as I was hired and brought in, one of the things that I was asked to do was to look at some of those different platforms for the future.
Yeah, and there might be more which when we look at some of the very large IaaS platforms. They are continuously expanding their capabilities. So it will remain interesting, and hopefully you made your architecture of what you do yourself in a way that it can run, can be ported rather easily to other platforms. So that definitely is interesting to see. Maybe one more question around it. So if a customer makes that bet on ServiceNow, so you're long in the industry, I'm long in this industry, we have seen then also these migrations away from some of these platforms which sometimes still are popular or have been popular. That might be just caused by a merger and acquisition, by whatever, something goes wrong in a project and CIO says, we do it totally different, by strategic decisions of CIOs, etc. So there's still a situation, or can be a situation, of a customer who says, okay, ServiceNow has been strategic, but I take a different path right now. That would mean for the IGA team at the end of the day, they must move with the rest of the enterprise in such a scenario. Or what would be your answer for the IGA teams or for the IAM teams on that question?
Well, this plays very well, when we talked a couple of moments ago about risk. And again, one of the key reasons why we wanted to build on ServiceNow, the whole aspect of digital transformation is typically a board and C-level executive decision. And when a company makes a decision around digital transformation and starts working on a platform and a plan to realize a whole set of goals, and something like ServiceNow is a key component of that, chances or the risk associated with that being sort of ripped and replaced is a lot more remote. If it were to happen, then you can imagine it's not just the IGA and the identity team that has to be concerned about moving to a different platform or going in a different direction, but it's all of the things associated with that platform, including ITSM and potentially GRC and HR and all the other things that ServiceNow brings to the platform. So in some ways, we're mitigating our risk by being built on a platform and being more strategic to the company, and a platform that's more strategic to the company than being in our own platform with our own set of architectural debt and risks, and being outside of the digital transformation. So I think one of the most important things for us was to become part of the digital transformation wave, ride that with ServiceNow. There's always the risk of that being changed underneath us, Martin, as you mentioned. But I think it's much less risk for us and for our customers to be associated with such a great platform like ServiceNow.
Okay, fair point then. So you talked about the revolution, and I would agree with we seeing fundamental changes in the overall identity management market. So when you look at what we describe as our identity fabrics concept, which we also covered in the one or other of our KC Live events, starting with the first one, when you look at the shift from monolithic on-premise architectures to microservice container-based architectures that can run in various deployment models, and which also, in fact, are part of a shift to utilize things, to utilize services which are already there, where you take a specific variant of. The interesting question, maybe to you as another veteran in this industry, would be why hasn't that revolution been there already, or maybe why didn't you start a revolution earlier?
Right. Well, I think that's a really, really great question, Martin. And I would say there's two things that come to my mind. The first one is, you have to have a catalyst for any revolution, right? And the catalyst, in my mind, has been this whole aspect of, a platform that you could build on and innovate on that is radically different than anything else. And that's where we think ServiceNow has come in, and the additional catalyst being this whole aspect of digital transformation and re-engineering and re-ideating a company's strategy. The second thing is that, if I think of even back to my Zoomit days, we started building that product in 1996. We had our first beta in 1996. We were acquired by Microsoft in 1999. It was the same product. It evolved at Microsoft, until I left in 2005, and continued to evolve after that. The huge amount of, architectural debt that you build around an IGA or an identity product makes it really difficult for it to evolve, and you can evolve it, but it's hard to revolutionize it. You can see how companies have tried to revolutionize things, like Oracle with what they did in their move to the cloud, other IGA vendors who had on-prem products and try to move to the cloud, and you have multiple products, and they're all different in how they work. So part of it is the industry itself held itself back. We built partnerships, and we built products on top of architectures that were inflexible. We built we built multiple products, and instead of starting completely fresh on a new platform, we've basically boxed ourselves into a corner, in my opinion. So I think it would have been harder to do this earlier, and I think now with a platform like ServiceNow, I think that's an opportunity for revolutionary happening in this industry.
Yeah, I think overall, there's what you said, digital transformation, cloud first, microservice architectures, container-based deployments, platforms available that really helps to do things differently than in the old days. And so, yes, I would agree. So with that, we are at the end of the time we had. I think we could continue speaking for hours. But back to Annie. Thank you very much, Jackson.